Okay, Maya, I need to tell you about something that completely upended what I thought I knew about college teaching. I just got back from visiting 3 universities, a community college in Ohio, a state school in Texas, and Stanford. And what I saw has me questioning everything.
That sounds intense. What happened?
So I was following up on this nature study about AI tutoring systems. The researchers ran a controlled experiment where they compared students using an AI tutor to students in traditional active learning classrooms. You know, the kind where professors use clickers, group work, all the engagement strategies we've been told are best practice for the last decade.
Right, the whole shift away from lectures. I remember when that movement really took hold in my district.
Exactly. Well, the AI tutoring students outperformed the classroom students, not by a little, by a significant margin. And here's what's really messing with me. I sat in on both types of learning environments during my visits.
Wait, can I jump in here? I'm actually in one of those AI-enhanced courses right now at my university, Computer Science Senior. The experience is complicated.
Please, I'd love to hear your perspective. Because what I witnessed was this fascinating contradiction. In the traditional active learning classroom at the state school, the energy was incredible. Students were debating, building on each other's ideas. You could feel the intellectual electricity. But then I looked at the assessment data.
Let me guess, the test scores didn't match the energy?
The professor showed me midterm results from the past 3 years. Since they introduced the AI tutoring option as a supplement, the students who used it consistently scored higher. But here's the kicker. Those same students reported feeling less connected to the material.
That's exactly what I'm experiencing. The AI tutor is incredible for drilling concepts. It knows exactly where I'm struggling, adapts instantly, never gets frustrated when I ask the same question 5 different ways. But
Sorry to interrupt. I'm Sarah. I oversee curriculum development at a mid-sized liberal arts college. This conversation is hitting on everything I've been grappling with for the past year. We're facing enormous pressure to adopt these systems, but the philosophical implications are keeping me up at night.
Dr. Sarah, that's perfect timing, because the tension I keep encountering isn't really about the technology itself. It's about what we believe education should be.
You mean whether it's about knowledge transfer or something deeper?
Exactly. At the community college in Ohio, I met this professor who's been teaching developmental math for 15 years. She told me something that stuck with me. My students don't just need to learn algebra. They need to believe they can learn algebra.
oh wow, yes, that's huge. My AI tutor is great at teaching me algorithms, but it can't look me in the eye and say, I know you can do this in a way that makes me believe it.
This is the core tension we're dealing with. The data on learning outcomes is compelling, but learning outcomes aren't the only outcomes that matter. When I talk to faculty who've been teaching for decades, they're not just concerned about test scores.
Right. And this connects to another study I've been digging into, research on AI's impact on imposter syndrome. The preliminary findings suggest that students using AI tools extensively report increased feelings of inadequacy.
That's counterintuitive. If the tools are helping them perform better, why would they feel worse?
I can answer that. When the AI tutor solves a problem with me, there's always this nagging question. Did I really learn this, or did the AI just guide me to the answer? In a classroom, when you have that aha moment during discussion, you own it. It's yours.
The researcher I spoke with called it scaffolding dependency. Students become so accustomed to the AI's support structure that they doubt their ability to think independently.
We're seeing this in our pilot programs. Students' performance on structured assessments goes up, but their confidence in open-ended projects goes down. It's like we're creating a generation of students who can follow a map perfectly, but panic when asked to explore.
This reminds me of when calculators were first introduced in math classes. Same fears, same debates.
Yes, but I talked to professors who lived through that transition, and they say this feels different. Calculators automated computation. These AI tutors are automating something closer to thinking itself.
That's what scares me as a CS major. I'm supposed to be learning how to problem solve, how to approach novel challenges. But when I use the AI tutor, I sometimes feel like I'm learning how to prompt rather than how to think.
The institutional pressures are intense, though. When I show our board the data on improved pass rates, reduced dropout rates, better standardized test scores, how do I argue against that?
This is where the regional disparities become really stark. At Stanford, they can afford to be philosophical about it. They're running small pilot programs, lots of faculty oversight, careful integration. But at the community college in Ohio, they're looking at these tools as a lifeline. They have students who work 2 jobs who can only access education at 2 a.m. For them, an AI tutor isn't replacing human connection. It's providing access where none existed.
That's a crucial point. We can't have this conversation in a vacuum. The reality of who's in college today is different than it was 20 years ago.
True, but okay, personal story. I'm first-generation college student. My parents immigrated here. Neither went to university. You know what got me through my first year? It wasn't just learning the material. It was my algorithms professor who stayed after class, who saw something in me I didn't see in myself. Can an AI do that?
That's the human element that keeps coming up in my interviews. But here's where it gets complicated. I spoke with researchers working on deepfake-style AI tutors, systems that can mimic specific teaching styles, even specific professors.
We've been approached by vendors selling these systems. The demos are unsettling. They can create an AI version of our best professors, available 24/7.
That feels like crossing a line somehow.
The researchers argue it's about democratizing access to excellent teaching. Why should only 30 students get to learn from the best professor when thousands could benefit from an AI that teaches in their style?
But teaching isn't just style, is it? Last week, my database professor noticed I looked exhausted and asked if I was okay. Turns out I'd been up all night debugging code. She didn't just help me with the bug, she talked to me about sustainable work habits, about burnout in tech. That conversation changed my whole approach to my studies.
This is exactly the kind of interaction we can't replicate. But the vendors keep showing me data. Student satisfaction scores with AI tutors are often higher than with human instructors. The AI is infinitely patient, always available, never has a bad day.
I found that particularly strong in math and science courses. Students reported feeling less judged, more willing to ask stupid questions.
Which is huge for learning. I can't count how many students I've taught who were afraid to raise their hand.
But then I observed something fascinating at the Texas State School. They've implemented a hybrid model: AI tutors for skill building, human instructors for synthesis and application. The professor I followed would assign AI tutoring sessions for foundational concepts, then use class time entirely for discussion, debate, and collaborative problem solving.
That actually sounds amazing.
We're piloting something similar. Early results are promising, but the faculty workload is intense. They're essentially redesigning their entire curriculum.
And this is where the institutional politics get messy. I sat in on a faculty senate meeting where this was being debated. Older professors felt like their expertise was being devalued. Younger faculty were excited but overwhelmed, and everyone was worried about job security.
The job security thing is real. If AI can handle the foundational teaching, what happens to all those adjunct positions?
That's the elephant in the room. We rely heavily on adjuncts for introductory courses. If AI tutors prove more effective and infinitely scalable...
One administrator told me, off the record, that they could cut their instructional budget by 40% with full AI implementation. But she also said she'd quit before doing that because it would fundamentally change what a college education means.
You know what worries me most? The social aspect. Half of what I've learned in college has come from study groups, from arguing about problems with classmates at 3 a.m. If everyone's learning solo with their AI tutor, we lose that.
The collaborative learning piece is huge. Students don't just learn the material, they learn how to learn with others.
I pressed this point with the AI researchers. They showed me next-generation systems that facilitate group learning, that can moderate discussions, even simulate peer interactions.
Simulate peer interactions? That's dystopian.
Their argument is that not all students have access to study groups. International students struggling with language barriers, working parents who can't stay on campus, students with social anxiety.
Okay, I get that. My roommate has severe social anxiety and she loves the AI tutor. But simulation isn't the same as real human connection.
It feels like we're trying to solve human problems with technological solutions.
But here's what's really tripping me up. The evidence is mounting that these tools genuinely help students learn more efficiently. The algorithmic bias study I reviewed showed that when properly designed, AI tutors can actually reduce achievement gaps between different student populations.
If properly designed. That's a massive if. Who's making these design decisions? What pedagogical philosophy is being coded into these systems?
That's the critical question. I interviewed the development team for one major platform. They have exactly one person with actual teaching experience. The rest are engineers and data scientists.
That explains a lot.
It's like they're optimizing for the wrong metrics. Yes, I can complete problems faster with AI help, but am I developing intuition? Am I learning to trust my own reasoning?
One professor put it brilliantly. She said, "We're creating students who can answer questions, but can they ask questions?"
That's going up on my office wall. The ability to formulate questions, to wonder, to challenge, that's what higher education should cultivate.
But then I think about that student at the community college who told me the AI tutor was the first teacher who had time for all his questions. He works nights, has kids, and before the AI system, he was failing. Now he's on track to transfer to a 4-year school.
These individual success stories matter. Each one represents a life changed.
I'm not anti-AI. I'm going to be working in tech. But I think we're rushing to implement without asking deeper questions about what kind of thinkers we're creating.
The timeline pressure is real, though. Every semester we wait, our competitor schools are advertising their cutting-edge AI-enhanced learning. Parents and students are asking why we don't offer the same.
The marketing around this is intense. I analyzed the language used in these vendor pitches: personalized, adaptive, revolutionary. But when you dig into what's actually happening, it's often sophisticated pattern matching and content delivery.
Not actual teaching.
Well, that depends on how you define teaching. And that's where this whole debate crystallizes. What is the essential core of education that can't be automated?
For me, it's the moments when a professor challenges my assumptions. My ethics in AI course last semester. The professor constantly pushed us to think about implications we hadn't considered. An AI tutor optimizing for correct answers wouldn't do that.
Faculty development is going to be crucial. We can't just throw these tools at professors and expect magic. The ones using AI successfully have completely reconceptualized their role.
Right, shifting from information deliverer to learning architect. But that requires skills many professors haven't developed.
And time they don't have. The teaching loads at most institutions are already crushing.
I found a fascinating case study in France. They're taking a very different approach to AI in higher education. Much more cautious, much more focused on preserving the human elements while enhancing specific capabilities.
The European approach generally seems more thoughtful, less driven by venture capital and disruption rhetoric.
Sometimes I wonder if we're asking the wrong question. Instead of, how can AI replace teachers? Maybe we should ask, what do students actually need to thrive?
When I asked students that question, the answers were revealing. Yes, they wanted clear explanations and available help, but they also wanted mentorship, community, inspiration, and someone who believed in their potential.
Those aren't programmable features.
Yet, I've seen demos of AI systems that adapt their encouragement style based on student psychological profiles. It's sophisticated manipulation dressed up as personalization.
The ethical dimensions are staggering. We're talking about systems that know more about a student's learning patterns than the student knows about themselves.
That data collection piece terrifies me. Every wrong answer, every moment of hesitation, every time I give up on a problem, it's all being recorded and analyzed.
What happens to that data after graduation?
Excellent question. We're wrestling with data governance policies. Who owns the learning analytics? Can it be sold, used for employment screening?
I couldn't get straight answers from vendors on data retention. Lots of vague promises about privacy, but the business model depends on data accumulation.
So we're not just changing how we learn, we're creating permanent records of our learning struggles. That feels like a fundamental shift in what education means.
One researcher framed it as moving from education as transformation to education as optimization. Instead of the messy human process of growth, we get efficient skill acquisition.
But growth requires failure. Safe failure. How do you fail safely when every mistake is data?
This conversation is crystallizing something for me. We're not just choosing between human and AI instruction. We're choosing between different visions of human development.
And the urgency is real. These decisions we're making now will shape the next generation of thinkers, creators, and citizens.
What scares me is that my younger siblings won't even remember education without AI. This will be their normal.
Maybe that's not entirely bad. Every generation adapts to new tools.
True, but the speed and scope of this change feels unprecedented. We're not adding a tool, we're potentially replacing a fundamental human relationship.
So where do we go from here? I have to make recommendations to my board next month.
From everything I've seen, the institutions finding success are taking an evidence-based but values-driven approach. They're clear about what they won't compromise, then thoughtful about where AI can genuinely enhance rather than replace.
I'd want to see student voice central to these decisions. We're the ones living with the consequences.
And long-term studies. Not just semester grades, but what happens to these students 5-10 years out.
The research gap there is massive. We have lots of data on immediate performance, almost nothing on whether AI-assisted learning creates different kinds of thinkers long-term.
That's the experiment we're running on an entire generation.
When you put it that way, the stakes feel overwhelming. But I keep coming back to those individual stories. Students who would have dropped out without AI support, professors using these tools to do things they never could before.
Maybe the answer isn't choosing sides, but being intentional about integration, protecting what's sacred while embracing what's genuinely beneficial.
That requires wisdom we're still developing.
And courage to resist both wholesale adoption and reflexive rejection.
The path forward isn't clear, but one thing is, we can't let this transformation happen to us. We need to actively shape it, guided by our deepest values about human development and potential.